When we think of the World Wars, images of European battlefields and Western armies often come to mind. But behind these narratives lies a largely untold story, the story of African soldiers. Over 2 million Africans served in World War I and II, playing crucial roles as combatants, laborers, and pioneers of independence movements. This is their story. World War I, fought from 1914 to 1918, saw the heavy involvement of African soldiers under colonial rule. European powers like Britain, France, and Germany conscripted over 1 million Africans to fight and labor in their armies. For many, the war was not a choice but an obligation imposed by colonial masters. French colonial troops, known as the Tirailleurs Sénégalais, were among the largest African contingents. They fought in brutal campaigns across Europe, including the infamous Battle of Verdun. Meanwhile, British forces recruited from East and West Africa, deploying the King's African Rifles and the West African Frontier Force to fight in Africa and the Middle East. African soldiers endured harsh conditions and racial discrimination. Over 150,000 African troops died in World War I, and many more suffered injuries or diseases. Yet their contributions were pivotal in battles across Europe, the Middle East, and Africa itself. By the time World War II broke out in 1939, the scale of African involvement grew significantly. Over 2 million Africans served in military and support roles, with soldiers fighting in North Africa, Europe, and Asia. The war brought new challenges and opportunities for those serving under colonial flags. North Africa became a critical theatre of war, with African soldiers fighting alongside Allied forces against Axis powers. In the jungles of Burma, Nigerian and Kenyan troops played pivotal roles, enduring extreme conditions and fierce combat. Despite their sacrifices, African soldiers were often denied equal pay recognition and pensions. Many returned to their homes with little to show for their service, while Europe rebuilt itself using resources extracted from African colonies. The wars exposed African soldiers to new ideas, experiences, and global politics. Fighting alongside Europeans and witnessing their vulnerabilities shattered the myth of European superiority. This transformation planted the seeds of resistance and self-determination. Returning soldiers became catalysts for change. They played a significant role in anti-colonial movements across Africa. Leaders like Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya and Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana drew inspiration from the shared struggle for freedom. World War II marked the beginning of the end for colonial rule. In 1945, African delegates attended the Pan-African Congress in Manchester, where calls for independence grew louder. Veterans, laborers, and activists united to challenge the colonial systems they had once fought to protect. Today, the legacy of African soldiers lives on in the monuments and memorials scattered across the continent and Europe. Their bravery and sacrifices were instrumental in reshaping the political landscape of Africa and the world. Yet their contributions remain underrepresented in mainstream narratives. It is time to honor these unsung heroes, to teach their stories, and to ensure their sacrifices are not forgotten. The role of African soldiers in the world wars is not just African history, it is global history. African soldiers fought for freedom and justice on battlefields far from home. Though they returned to a continent still under colonial rule, their courage and sacrifices laid the foundation for Africa's independence. This is their legacy, and it is a story we must continue to tell. Thank you for joining us in uncovering this vital chapter of history. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that connect us to the past and inspire the future.